In order to make a plan about what we can do about the triggers that lead us to stressful emotions and thoughts, we have to start by thinking through what we have control over and what we don't. We've called this sorting your spheres because here we've drawn 3 spheres to represent what you can control in the green, what you can influence, implying you may not be able to control it, but you can likely have some effect on it. That's the yellow sphere. And what you cannot control or influence in that red sphere. Now, perhaps you're seeing bad news in this diagram because you see the biggest sphere as what you cannot control or influence. And if you just need to let that soak in for a minute, let it. We are significant individual creatures in the world, but relatively we are small, and the world is large, and the hurricane of opportunities and challenges that come at us will be, at times, numberless. So yes, along with positively believing that we can achieve almost anything, we've got to make peace with the fact that we can't achieve everything. And getting a clearer view of this perspective can really help us. The positive take on this, there is a lot that can be fit within that green sphere, maybe even more than we think. It's helpful if we can see our caregiving activities, particularly the triggering events we identified in the last step of the activity that we did. We want to see those events and activities spread across the 3 spheres. There are some things that we can control, some activities and events that we can just influence but not control, and there are absolutely things we cannot control at all. If you made a list earlier in step 3 of triggering events, look back at that list. Where do those events fit in these 3 spheres? I shared earlier that one of the stress triggering events in my caregiving was leaving the situation to go to work. I would feel all sorts of concern and worry as I would leave my mom's home, especially if I'd been there for a weekend or a few days, to go back to my home, my work, and the other parts of my life. I would start to worry and fret and wonder, just knowing that much and looking at these 3 spheres, is what I described just now something I could control or something I could only influence but not control, or would it be something totally out of my control? Well, we're all in different situations, and that was a while ago for my life. But from where I sit today, it was probably something that was in the yellow sphere, something I could not directly control because I had made clear commitments to myself and others, including my employer, that I had to fulfill. I couldn't stay with my mom full time. But I could certainly influence the situation for good. I had nearly full decision-making authority about who was providing care in my absence, and I could do a lot to prepare those who would be providing that care, giving them checklists and schedules, references or resources for help, tools to help or monitor. And while it was very important to realize that I couldn't completely control the care in my absence, and I had to own that and be okay with it, I also benefited greatly by coming to know what I could influence and being okay with that too. So I want you to just take a moment and look at the list of triggering events from step 3, or maybe even pause here and make a longer list of events, activities or scenarios, worries, concerns, maybe even people who lead to the increased caregiving burdens and challenges you feel. And then take a minute and sort your spheres. Put your list of items and events into the appropriate sphere. Which ones are controllable? Which ones are just influenceable? And which ones are neither? You won't get a comprehensive list built today. In fact, it may take you several weeks revisiting this activity to build a more full picture. But spend some time thinking about it now and start the list now. When you're ready, the next segment will share a couple examples of how caregivers have sorted their spheres. And then you'll be given another space of time to work and reflect on your personal situation. Okay, so you may have given it a shot to put some of the scenarios of your caregiving within these 3 spheres. Whether you have or not, we wanted to share some examples of how some caregiving scenarios we know might fit within those sphere categories. Our first example is one we referenced earlier, a caregiver going shopping with their recipient of care. If that's a triggering event, which sphere would we put it in? Well, it depends. If you can outsource the shopping experience to someone who will just take it completely and go shopping, and it accomplishes what is needed, simple, it's controllable. Maybe your recipient of care needs to go on that excursion, and if it can't totally be outsourced, maybe someone else could take your recipient of care shopping and you don't have to go. That's controllable. But you might think, will I worry and be flustered with concern if I don't go and someone else does? Is that controllable? You might just need to think about this differently and break it apart into segments. This is exactly what this tool and this thought journey can do for you. It can help you think differently. Have another example on the next slide. A second example of how to look at events in the spheres of control that you're sorting. Maybe you've identified that you escalate on the stress thermometer when you lose sleep, and your sleep is triggered or disrupted because of the overnight watch care that you're offering. Is that controllable? If you can find respite care and you can then sleep elsewhere, yeah, it's controllable. If you can't sleep elsewhere, or you can't afford respite, or you have another reason that you just can't leave to get rest, maybe it's not as controllable. But keep thinking, because maybe you could identify other things that are causing you not to sleep and break this into smaller pieces. Perhaps after a long caregiving stint, you're just relaxing. You're trying to watch TV and just disconnect and feel some reestablished relationship with interests and with the real world. And when you finally sleep, then the hours are few. Is that controllable? Maybe. Maybe not. But it's likely influenceable. You could maybe influence it by adjusting some of your habits to sleep earlier, watching TV during awake hours, or finding more healthy activities in the daytime that take the place of TV and offering you a feeling of connection to the world, or identity, or purpose. A third example I've heard repeatedly for determining what is controllable and what's not. A caregiver reports extreme worry and stress whenever someone came to her home to bathe or shower her mom. The caregiver worries that her mom would fall, resulting in an injury that would limit or eliminate her mobility. Is that controllable? So again, depending on the situation, we get a yes and a no, perhaps. Yes, the caregiver has some control. It's actually more influence than control by talking with the visiting home health aide or the other kind of service that's there to give the bath or the shower. She can express concern, find out what precautions and safety measures are in place, tell the home health aide about the configuration of the rails in the bathroom and about her mom's unique conditions. But no, the caregiver doesn't have control because the risk of falls and decline are just part of the aging experience and the caregiving experience overall. And the caregiver has to release her desire to control it and realize that it's just out of bounds, that decline and falls and injury are just going to be part of the experience. Coming to grips with this reality is not easy, but it has offered a lot of caregivers, including me, a great sense of relief if I can break it into what's controllable and what is just not. Now that we've shared a couple of examples, take another quiet moment or two before moving on to think about what triggers your stress and how those events and circumstances fit into the different spheres of control. You've likely made notes and thought about this, but pause here and add anything additional that will help you in building out your full picture of triggering events and what sphere they might fall within.